currency isn't money. Currency is the value proposition upon which you make decisions. John and I have been in places in the world where the dollar has no significance.
Yep.
But a carton of cigarettes is gold, right?
Exactly.
You know? And gold only matters in places where beauty is appreciated, right? So what's the currency? And we all have this currency. And you need to do some deep dive and understand what your currency is. If you and I are fighting and I'm remembering and you're learning, I'm going to win. Because remembering is faster than learning. And it's like real. I'm like, no, it's a metaphor. Like you're still going to learn. For me, curiosity is a catalyst. And the last thing is, curiosity is criteria. It's courage, it's creator, it's a catalyst, and it's a complacency killer. And complacency is a killer. It's in the supply chain of every disaster. It's in the cocktail of any. It's just always there. And people tell me, like, man, there's no discipline about not being complacent other than just staying curious. Like curiosity and complacency, they're incompatible. Like so if you're curious,
you're not asking questions.
By default, you reject complacency. So there's no like, how do I become less complacent? It's more like, how do I stay curious? Because if I stay curious by default, I'm rejecting complacency.
Right.
Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Men Talking Mindfulness. We're actually recording here in studio here in Dallasville. We're in Dallas, Texas, and I'm here in Purposeful Productions. So thank you for this, Austin, for this.
Plano, if we want to run the alliteration, Purposeful Productions.
Purposeful Productions in Plano.
Frisco,
Texas.
We're actually in Plano.
We're Plano.
I don't even. Okay, sorry, my God. Don't let the northerner fuck it all up.
You get sideways with people pretty quick.
Okay, I mean, don't get.
It's like saying, "Hey, are you from Brooklyn? No, I'm from the Bronx," and just lumping them together.
All right, you're true. Very true.
It's maybe not that. That's a pretty.
I don't know where the hell I am. You know,
it may not be that.
I'm on the show. John's waiting to do our intro.
Oh, it's awesome.
So
in spirit, it's that intense, but not.
I told you this was going to be a less formal intro, man.
I love it.
So, like, normally we read our stuff, but hey, we're here with Clint Bruce. Clint, welcome, brother.
Hey, thanks, man. Good to be here. Good to be with y'all.
Clint, a fellow former Frogman. He also played in the NFL for a brief stint. He went to the Naval Academy. Yeah. Not one of the best classes, 96. 01 was probably.
I was 97.
97, all right.
Yeah, but
97.
football 96. And that's what helped me become a 97.
Gotcha.
Winning football games in 96.
There you go.
Yeah, we went to the
Aloha Bowl.
If we want a bowl game, you can
MVP.
go. Like, oh, thank you. Yeah, but
MVP at that game.
Hey, athletic overachievement, academic under. That's how you would. There's an arbitrage between athletics and academics.
All brawn, no brains kind of thing.
But I was trying. I tell people, like, hey, listen, if you try, the instructors, as long as it's within their moral and ethical spectrum, they'll be like, he's trying. They're like, he was trying. He's just dumb.
Hardly.
Great. We'll carry you in this conversation. We got you. We'll carry you in this conversation.
Right. So anyway, after transitioning from active duty, Clint, you founded multiple businesses, nonprofits. They're all rooted in leadership, service, and purpose. And you speak widely on community, vulnerability, and living with intention. And that's a lot of what we're going to cover today.
Good.
So we're super excited to get in this conversation. Before we do that, Will, over to you, brother.
Not much to Men Talking Mindfulness for what we're doing. Check it out. Like we have, lots of stuff coming up, but I just want to get in this conversation with Clint. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much. Man. I mean, we've done quite a bit of research on you, so we're really excited to dive in to see. I know it was terrifying uncovering. Like,
hopefully you didn't run my FICO, like my credit.
It's like, wow.
Do you know your FICO is? I'm like, yeah, no, I know.
Well, let's ground ourselves.
If you steal my ID, you're going to lose your house. You're going to talk about ID.
Well, we ground our show with doing one breath grounding practice just to kind of chill out a little bit. But we'll just do that one breath now. So maybe close your eyes or just kind of soften a little bit. We'll just start nice little exhale out your mouth. Let it go. Feel yourself kind of grounding deeper into your seat. And let's take a big inhale through your nose. Bigger breath. A little bit bigger. And let's hold it for 3, 2, and 1. And exhale, let it go out. And even our production guy, it's a little prayer for us.
I know.
Which was like, we're definitely in the South. And he was killing it on a little prayer. I felt that like the Lord coming in for our podcast today.
That's a prayer you'll let the mashed potatoes get cool with. Like most time you're like, finish up, mashed potatoes getting cool. You're like, I'll do some cool mashed potatoes, man. That's a prayer right there.
Exactly.
Austin's throwing heat.
Exactly.
All right, man. So Clint, man, like I said in the intro there, played football at Navy, played a little bit of football with the Saints and the Ravens. I didn't actually talk about the teams. And then clearly you were in the SEAL teams.
Yeah.
And you've done the entrepreneurial work, right? Yeah. So for guys listening right now, something Will and I have started doing is we want to ask the big picture question right off the bat, because some people, hey, they've got 2 minutes and they listen just to an intro.
Yeah.
So what do you hope people walk away from this interview with? That's all.
Yeah, man, my passion is helping people define their high ground and then get to it and stay there,
Yeah.
Define it, get to it. And then what a lot of people don't think about is, hey, man, how do I hold the high ground once I get there? And so that's what I love doing. I love helping guys find the high ground, post-service, post-athletic careers, get there and hold it. And sometimes you got to really recalibrate what they think the high ground is.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
So I love doing that professionally and philanthropically. I feel really blessed to have been able to do that for quite a few years here. So yeah, you have a high ground. You can get to it. May not be what you thought it was. Often it isn't, but once you find it, get there and hold it. And,
yeah, that's right.
And everybody has the potential to do that for sure.
And that for those who are listening who may not be familiar with what you mean by the high ground, what it means.
The preamble. Yeah. So I'm sure you get this. I get this all the time. One of the questions I get asked all the time, especially when I'm speaking to groups or teams or whatever, especially on a room full of men, if it's like a football team or something, they go, hey, what's your favorite gun? And it's a natural question. Like there's nothing wrong with it. It's probably what I'd ask me too. But it's not the question I want to answer. So I always pivot off of that and go, hey, you're asking what my favorite gun is or what my favorite weapon is.
Mm-hmm.
And the younger they are and the more male they are, the faster they'll go with the same thing. But the older they are, the more diverse the crowd is. They kind of nod their head knowingly, even if they don't know what the answer is. And I'll always lean in and go, hey, listen, a gun is a tool. A weapon is what I use to win. So my favorite weapon is a map. Because once I have a map, I have everything. I know where the bad guy will be, know what to come in, what to bring, what to leave, how to get home. And if we have a map, the worst we'll ever be is wrong, but we won't be lost. And wrong and lost are different, right? And I've been both. I've been wrong and I've been lost, and I hate them both. But I will take wrong over lost any day, because if you're wrong, it's just a matter of realizing it. Remembering where you said you wanted to go, availing yourself to the wisdom of those who are there now, who have been where you want to go, and the camaraderie of those who want to get there as badly as you do. And then you just got to do the work, right? But being lost is terrifying. Like any move could be wrong. It's paralytic. And kind of when I describe my life biographically to kind of get to your answer is I describe my life and everybody has their own version of this. This is just, I'm a visual guy. I describe my life biographically as I've lived on the ball field, the battlefield, the boardroom, and the breakfast table. The ball field describes my season life, literally describes my season life as an athlete. I grew up here, Dallas-Fort Worth area, played football at the Naval Academy, played in the NFL. No one knows I played in the NFL because when I was at the Ravens, I played the same position as Ray Lewis. And he's all right, man. He was all right. And I remember being in practice one day. This is 1997, so it was his second year, and he hadn't become Ray yet, but we all knew
he's like one of the greatest of all time. He's phenomenal,
without question. Yeah. And he's very cerebral. He's very deep. He's very passionate. Like I tell people, like, hey, that Ray you see with the fire in his eye, like, that's him. There's no pretense there. That's just who he is. And I do remember being at practice one day because I've been selected for the teams too. Mm-hmm. So here I am, the two, opportunity playing the NFL and haven't been selected for the community. And I wanted to serve. There was no part of me that didn't want to serve, but we had done things in such a way that, I could play that first season and then go to Buds and then come back out, kind of the Dave Robinson thing. And, but I remember at practice one day watching him do something. And I was like, man, it might be easier to become an Navy SEAL than be out ready. so the ball field describes my season life as an athlete.
What a thought! Like, all right, do I beat out Ray Lewis, or do I go? Or do
I make it through something that historically has a 10% retention, 9% attrition?
He just likes hard shit, huh?
Yeah, man, the math was far and away more favorable for making it through SEAL training. Yeah, and the battlefield describes my season life of being a member of the SEAL teams, and I love being a member of the SEAL teams, but I love more having been a member of the United States military. And John, I'll tell you, like, we're one finger on a fist, on an arm, on a body that is the United States military. And it was a privilege to be that finger.
Well, thank you for your service.
No, thanks for being worth it, man.
John as well.
And, thanks, brother. Yeah, thanks for being worth it. And,
appreciate that.
So, and then
I like that response. Thanks for being worth it.
I've said that for, I think, probably 12 years, kind of right after I started carrying load. And someone goes, hey, thanks for your service. I go, thanks for being worth it. And it kind of caught them off guard. And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, that's what we're thinking. Like, we're over there missing our families, all this other stuff. I'm like, man, I hope these people are worth it. then you come home and you meet someone that's doing more than they have to for people that don't know. And you're like, okay, they were worth it. So it's like, there's like a reconciliation for us when you're like, okay, they were worth it. Right. And so, and the challenge is that he continue to be worth it. And my job is to continue to be worth it because there's some young, strapping young lad on the side of the mountain protecting my freedom now. So
sure.
I mean, it's
like Tom Hanks.
It's
yeah.
He's like,
and, right.
And so the boardroom describes our season life now that this, and the breakfast table is we're on that map our whole lives. We're born onto a breakfast table. And sometimes that's great. Sometimes it could be better. But then we build a breakfast table. And so that's how I describe my life biographically, the way I run my life. Because if you don't have a map, you're not on mission. You're on E&E, right? And you know that as a Red Wings guy, right? Yep. And I go, from now I run my life. I kind of guide and govern my life with a ball field, mental and physical health. Hey, I take care of myself mentally and physically so I can perform at a high level for the number of the days God gives me, right? The boredom, am I providing for myself and my family and those entrusted me in a way that I'm proud of and where you get to keep the trophy, right? And the breakfast table are my bride and I building girls that love us and that matter to others. And all three of those are a battlefield. At best, graphically, it's like 3 discs with 1 disc going around them, three maps. And then, and the battlefield, at best, my everyday enemy is entropy and complacency, right? Yeah. At worst, I have adversaries and competitors and enemies on these maps, right? But you tend to take everything more seriously when you realize you're at war, you're in battle, right? And so for me, the high ground is where you always want to be on a map, right? And so very visually for me, my whole life is like going, hey, what's the high ground mentally and physically? What's the high ground in the boardroom? What's the high ground at the breakfast table? And the way it would look, and you're seeing this in your mind's eye, and I'll explain it for you. I get it. There's these, the breakfast table is the main party, and then the ball field is like a bounding Overwatch, and the boardroom is like C2, and so these are 3 concurrent missions occurring at the same time, all that got to be supportive of each other, right? Right. And for me, it just works, right? And so when I say, hey, what is the high ground? Like, what did you think the high ground was for mental and physical performance? And that changes over time. And there's nothing more abundant than the disgruntled and depressed millionaire.
Oh yeah.
So that's not what it is either. That's what all of Ecclesiastes is like. Hey, it's not this. So, and the reason it's so important to me is, I'm one of the hardest questions I ever get asked is who's your mentor? Because it's impossible. It's like, why would I ever deny myself the wisdom of somebody else? I have hundreds of mentors. Like and I crave that wisdom because if I get to remember what you had to learn the hard way, I don't have to learn it the hard way. And like I was working with a UFC fighter one time and I said, hey man, if you and I are fighting and I'm remembering and you're learning, I'm going to win because remembering is faster than learning. And he's like, real? I'm like, no, it's a metaphor. Like you're still going to learn. You recognize this guy's name. Like I don't have a chance. Right. I bite him. And, but for me, that high ground is where you want to get to. It's where you have positional advantage, where you have perspective, right? So our offices are called the high ground. Our offices like co-working facilities for veteran and athlete-led companies. It's like a warrior we work. What I try to do is look, hey man, the only thing that's different on these maps is really the hard skills between the ball field and the battlefield and the boardroom. The soft skills and experiences are very similar. Yeah. And I always tell these young veterans, I go, hey man, you know what the difference between a 15,000 foot peak in North America and South America is? And they're going to yes, right? Because that's kind of we are. Like, there's an answer where you get them like nothing, man. It's 15,000 feet.
Same 15,000
So
feet.
2/3 of what it takes to get there is the same, regardless of what map you're going to be on. Like, so if you've been on the high ground on the battlefield, you have a percentage of what it takes to be on the high ground in the boardroom. Yeah. And what we try to do in our business is we try to commingle those men and women who are leading at really high levels in the boardroom with men and women who are leaving the ball from the battlefield. And serendipity is part of the strategy. But what happens is, like for me, it's the empathy engine. Like you put someone in a shoot house, and the CEO of a Fortune 100 company is intimidating if you're a 24-year-old, second ranger kid, until you're in the shoot house. And all of a sudden that CEO's like, hey man, what do I do? And that second ranger's like, no, I got you. And all of a sudden this equilibrium sets in. And you start realizing like, oh, that's just a dude doing the best he can where he is, what he has. And what a lot of these young veterans know is like, senior executive leaders, they have all the questions we do. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a conversation with a guy who has more money than he knows what to do with. He's accomplished everything on the board he possibly can. And he's like, man, I wonder how I do on the battlefield. And so we all got questions.
Sure.
And the question is who you live in life with while you ask yourself these questions.
Yeah.
Are you running with people who can help you answer the questions, or are they just versions of you, right? So when I say the high ground, it's a metaphorical application of what we know to be true about being on the battlefield. Does that make sense?
100%.
Well, it's also, I mean, taking it even another level, it's like being the high ground of your mind and not being so attached to your feelings.
Well, that's all of it. I mean, that's really, it all begins there.
Exactly.
It all begins there.
Right. Exactly. On the inside. For sure.
And, cause
objective.
Yeah. I mean, the neck up is really the weapon system.
Right.
I've always told this isn't scientific, by the way, which will shock you and everybody who knows me watching this. But I've always told my daughters, I'm like, hey, the human machine has 4 performance systems. You have the body, the brain, the mind, and the soul. And for an analogy's sake, I say the body is a car, the brain is a steering wheel, the mind is a driver, and the soul is his inherent sense of where you want to be, right? But the body and brain are just machines, and they have machine-like principles. And when you begin to understand that, you're not as harsh on yourself. Like, I'm not mad at myself when my tire got a flat or when my brakes fail. I mean, it's a byproduct of being a consumable, right? And so the body's a consumable. And I tell, that's why I love, John, what you've been doing for years is I've watched you kind of launch this concept and what Chris is doing with operator syndrome and all this other stuff. I go, you can drive with 4 mismatched tires and steering that's off. You can do it.
You can still get to your destination.
It's going to be exhausting.
Most efficiently.
It'll be 180% burden because you're trying to do this all the time.
Right.
And what mindfulness allows you to do is step back and figure out what's going on with the wheels and the car and the steering.
Yeah.
And the mind can impose its will on the body and the brain for a little while, but it's unsustainable. Mm-hmm. So the trick is work all 3. Work the brain and the mind, right? And so defining that and understanding, what the high ground is and sensitizing that to really what your world is. Like if I had all the money in the world and didn't have a relationship with my daughters, it would be worthless, right?
Right.
And I say this.
Well, you're not even in the high ground.
No.
And
you're
not seeing the big picture.
100%. And I say this to a lot of people. Like I say, currency isn't money. Currency is the value proposition upon which you make decisions. So, John, I've been in places in the world where the dollar has no significance, but a carton of cigarettes is gold, right? And gold only matters in places where beauty is appreciated, right? So what's the currency? And we all have this currency, and you need to do some deep dive and understand what your currency is. And I think that's the way I see it is the most lonely and lost I've ever felt, bar none, is really the first 3 to 5 years when I left the ball field and battlefield and I came to the boardroom.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's identity. It's identity.
Well, I mean, there's simplicity, right? It's simple, but it's not easy, right? But there's no mystery where the high ground is on the ball field on the battlefield. Like you know where it is. Like, hey, I want to play in the Super Bowl. Like and not only that is there total clarity on what the X on the map is, but there's an infrastructure and an ecosystem that's designed to get you as high and as far as you're willing and able to go on the ball field and battlefield. And the boardroom, but you have to assemble that. You have to build that, right? And the X on the map, man, profit is not purpose. It isn't. And you can spin it however much you want to. Profit in and of itself, that's like bullets. Bullets have no purpose. They're of no value unless they're used, right? Mm-hmm. But I tell them, I say, hey, don't be apologetic about being successful because your profit funds and facilitates and resources your purpose, right? Yeah. And I've worked with executives that they're like, hey, man, I can't make another $1 million. I'm like, sucks to be you. I can't make my first one, right? Yeah. But the point of it is like $1 million is always going to fail you if it's just sitting in the bank like Scrooge McDuck. Mm-hmm. Like if we got an army full of every weapon in every round, but we don't go outside the wire, we fail. Yeah. Right. So you don't need to be apologetic about being profitable because for me, money is bullets. More bullets, better targets, bigger targets, right? That's all it is.
Exactly. And more you can fire.
But it took me a long time to and you can miss. You've got margin when you got a lot of rounds, right? But for me, I would tell you that I don't know that I'd ever not known what I wanted to be when I grew up until I was in my early 30s. Yeah. And the problem with that recalibration that's kind of thrust upon us when we leave the ball field and the battlefield is everybody goes to those moments of reinvention. You got to reinvent yourself. Yeah. You're not the biggest, fastest, smartest, strongest. You're not all these other things, right? Like you stop growing in high school. You're not going to play in the NBA. And when you have to go through that really hard moment of forced recalibration, you've got infrastructure, you got margin to do it. And sometimes when you're leaving the NFL and you're leaving the SEAL teams, when you're in their 30s, you just have less margin. So it's not that it's any less hard when you have to do it when you're 18, emotionally, but materially it's harder because you don't have the margin.
Right. Yeah.
Like I remember when I was at the Ravens, there was a dude who he's always been the fastest guy wherever he's been. Right. And that camp was the first time he wasn't the fastest guy, and it broke him. And some of the coaches were,
well, I mean, his identity's like stuck to it.
Well, and that's why I told some of the coaches were kind of messing with him. I was like, hey man, that's not a character issue. That's an exposure issue. Like, when was the first time you realized you weren't the fastest?
Right.
First time I realized I wasn't the fastest, 5th grade, Little Rock, Arkansas, coming around second base. With
some girl running out.
They made, I don't know if you're not old enough to remember this, but they made, you had this brief season of life when we had parachute pants, and then they made fake parachute pants.
Oh,
what I learned about
what I
learned about the fake parachute pants is those are not flame retardant. So my chubby little legs are catching on fire as I'm rounding second. But then I find, when I find I'm not the fastest, I go home to a mom and a dad. So I had margin. Yeah. And I said, this kid has always been the fastest, and his speed is what's going to allow him to extract his family from poverty. And now he's just finally went the fastest. So you got to give him time. That's exposure issue. I mean, that's amygdala, that's limbic system. The brain lacks a stimulus to grow based on success. It only grows because of discomfort, adversity. And so that evolution, like it has to, and I think what's hard for us is we're having to do that later, and we're having to do it having been on a high ground that offers a unique clarity of purpose. And I'm also a horizon guy. And John, I'd be interested in kind of how I articulate this and see your opinions on it, because I don't know if I do it well. I would say until my early 30s, I was flying nap at the earth. So nap at the earth is your contour flying. It's like every cool scene in a movie where the bird's just going right along the treetops, right? That's called nap of the earth is what that's called. And that provides a really fast feedback loop. I do return on effort, right? And all of a sudden, the boardroom, I'd never been in an environment that I had to wait more than a month to figure out if what I did worked. On the ball field, every 7 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Instant feedback.
I can self-assess my value proposition of my teammates and also, so I know who I am and where I am and what I'm doing. Then I go to the sidelines and my position coach gives me feedback. Then I go to halftime and the coordinator gives me feedback. And at the end of the game, the outcome, the coaches and the fans give me feedback, right? In our world, you get feedback really quickly. 10 go out, 10 come back. And I mean, there's not a far horizon on effort, right? But all of a sudden I went to the boardroom, and there's a scene I kind of point to, in Finding Nemo. This is my level of maturity.
I love it. One of Scrooge McDuck, Finding Nemo.
And I tell people, like, hey, those Inside Out movies are stunningly accurate.
Dude, they're so good.
I love those. I love that movie.
There's a scene in Finding Nemo where he swims off the coral reef. And it's the first time Nemo didn't know where he was. Because he's always had the reef right. or Marvin, the dad. And until I was in my early 30s, I was never in a scenario where I didn't have fast feedback. And I'm surrounded by people who know as much or more about the map that I'm on that I do. And all of a sudden, it's like you fly into a fog bank, and I had no instrument panel to understand where I was.
Well, you're looking for a new map. You know what I mean? It's like,
and so you got to build it. And,
right,
and what I think is so great about this podcast and these other efforts is we've had enough friends that have gotten out and survived their own mistakes that now you're kind of getting the gouge a little bit.
Oh, sure.
And you still got to go through it. Like, I can tell you everything that's going to happen in Hell Week, and with no surprises, it's still going to suck.
Yeah.
And you still might not make, and you can make an argument that's worse because you know it's coming.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, there's no real hack, but familiarity is always helpful. Right. And so, when guys get out, I always tell them, like, hey man, the best way to look at your first 3 to 5 years after you get out is like an IA. It's like a TDY. You're chopping to another command. You're trying to figure out, but hold it loosely, because they rightly hold you loosely, right? But yeah, man, that first 3 to 5 years was hard, and I probably made it harder by not wanting to ask for help or not.
Right.
My dad died when I was young, and my job is to protect and provide ever since then, you're not used to asking for help, and and those mentors aren't so overtly, like when you check in a platoon, you got a senior enlisted, and there's just no reason to pretend like what they are.
Yeah.
Like they're just so obviously so much more capable to you, and
so much more experienced.
And in our world, like, you're shamed for not asking questions. People say, "Hey, do the special operations community have a permissive environment when it comes to curiosity?" I'm like, we have an expectant.
Yeah.
Like if I brief you on something and you're not asking questions, and you're a new guy, I'm coming for you after the brief. I'm like, oh, you don't have any questions.
Yeah.
You've never done this before, but you're the best in the world. Like, you have no questions, right?
Beginner's mindset.
Because if you're not asking questions, you're telling me one to two things: you don't care, or you're already great at it.
Right.
Those are the only two realities. If you're not asking me questions, you don't care, or you're already perfect.
There's no room to learn in those cases.
I would throw in you're insecure.
Yeah.
That's the reason.
Yeah,
like,
right.
When I have this keynote I give called Pursuing Elite, and what I say is like, hey man, these are my observations on the ball field, on the battlefield, on the boardroom.
Yeah.
About people that just consistently produce elite outcomes, right? And
we're going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
I know you have your 4 pillars, which are really
the 4 maps, and
exactly.
ball, and then purposeful, passionate, protective, provider, and so for me, it's curiosity it's what you said. It's like I esteem curiosity greatly.
Well, curiosity keeps you in the high ground too. You know what I mean? Because you're like, you're looking, you're nervous.
Curiosity is a declaration. When I talk about pursuing elite, what I say is the difference between being excellent elite is, are you done or you're not done yet?
Mm.
Excellence is real. Excellence is a quantifiable. I mean, like, people ask me all the time, what's the difference between being excellent and being elite? Is it talent? I'm like, no. Like, there's nothing more abundant than unrealized potential and unfulfilled talent. And I'm not marginalizing talent. When talent's real, like, there's no reason to not talk about it. And talent will get you there, but it won't keep you there.
Right.
Buds is built to be a talent breaker. Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the guys that don't make it through are the guys that are so supremely talented they've never been tested before.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, my advantage
so many
is,
talented.
oh yeah, like, my gift is not being gifted.
Yeah.
Because I've never walked in thinking it wasn't going to be hard. I remember when
our Bud's plaque says "too dumb to quit."
Oh, 100%. Wow. Yeah. That's like, the church is like, sir, if you're going to be dumb, be tough. I'm like, I'm your man. 2.085 at the Naval Academy, man. I'm your guy, right? And but it's always been hard. So when it's hard, I'm not shocked, right? And again, it's not a character issue. Like, when you talk to guys who quit during Hell Week, it's really kind of fascinating. And the guys that are extraordinarily talented, physically gifted, when they quit and they talk about it, they almost talk about it like it's an out-of-body experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're in the third person watching themselves quit and they're not able to stop it. Well, that's the same thing I felt rounding second base as a chubby fifth grader, right? It's like you go into this fight or flight. It's like the inverse of flow. You're in this third party state, powerless to stop it, because the monkey brain's taken over. Like, you're not driving anymore. Monkey brain thinks you're going to die. It's running the ship now, right? And so, that's why we let a lot of listed guys come back through. If you're talented and this is the first hardest thing, we're going to find a way to keep you back in the community. I jokingly it's a little bit of an origin story in some ways. I call myself the achieving average.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the flow. You said it's like average, or it's like good, bad, average.
So so the outcomes, you're bad, average, good, excellent, elite. Right.
Exactly.
And so the difference between being excellent is, are you done or not done yet? Because excellence is real. It's quantifiable. Right. And for me, the elite is what happens once you get to the X. And there's people get to the X and they hug and they high five and they celebrate and they're done.
So the X is in our vernacular, the X is the target.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The goal.
Yeah. Right.
So,
that means you're done.
Hitting a threshold when you started your first company, like, in theory, you're done. And what I tell you, what I say is, the people who are leader, people get there, and if anything, you got to encourage them to rest, recover, and revel, right? Because you can be elite if you stay restless when your competition rests. When you reload, when others relax, that's when you become elite, right? Talent doesn't have much to do with it. Like I say, I call myself I'm a little bit of an achieving average. It's a little bit of a play on words. When I say I'm an achieving average, it doesn't, I'm not I've managed to do some pretty neat things, but I'm not a very gifted person. I say, when I say I'm an achieving average, what I mean is, if you were to aggregate all my gifts and abilities, you'd find me to be a high C or a low B in just about everything except for looks. I'm a good looking guy.
Like, A+.
It is what it is, man. Like,
I know. I was intimidated when I first saw
it. It happens all the time. It happens all the time.
Like, he's really going to.
I walked out of the house this morning and I caught a glimpse of myself in a mirror, and I turned to look at my bride of almost 30 years and I said, babe, I can turn it down, but I can't turn it off. And
you're a lucky woman.
She laughed. It was pretty hurtful. And, so like in the origin story of the achieving average is like, I was so invisible as a football player. Like this is how bad I was as a football player. I love football way sooner than football loved me. And so I remember I was in 8th grade, Brandenburg Middle School, and I was the 5th string fullback, which wouldn't have been a big deal, but there were 3 other fullbacks. And even that wouldn't have been a big deal. And I remember my dad said, son, I'm not disappointed you're the 5th string fullback. I'm disappointed they wrote it in the program. I'm like, what? It isn't program 1, 2, 3, blank 5. I was like, God. And
what happened to number 4? There was no number.
Fill in the blank
I was
spot.
like, yeah, like this is not even.
They're waiting for someone to sign up.
Jonathan McCurdy from guard to 4-string fullback, right? And I was like, man. And so the only way I could, be visible to coaches, I'd pick up all the pads after practice, right? And I'd try to take them in. And I remember one practice, I was picking up the pads and I was got to the back door and I was knocking on the door. No one answered the door. I was like, oh, they're just messing with me. Then I turned to look and coaches were leaving, like they were in their cars leaving for the day. I was like, oh, so I remember I dove in front of my coach's cars and he hit me. I was in pads, so it was fine. And, he gets out, he goes, hey, why are you just like one of my football players? I'm like, I am one of your football players. I was trying to take the pads in. So he came and he let me in and I'm bringing in the pads. He's like, you know what, son, when you're in 8th grade, you can be on this football team. I'm like, I'm in 8th grade. I've been on this football team for 2 years. Right. So I had to decide. I was like, okay, well, why am I playing football? Right. But it's where my friends were. It's where I was learning about myself. I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. So I remember I went out and I still have the piece of paper. I wrote down and I called the achievement equation. And for me, everything comes down to math, simple math, right? And so for me, the achievement equation is angles plus allies plus advantages equals achievement. And I remember when I wrote that down, it was kind of cool because for me, angles and allies is 2/3 of the equation.
Yeah.
And advantages, for me, advantages are talent and treasure. And people go time, like, no, talent and treasure just buy you more time. But time in and of itself, we all have the same amount of. But the math for me is like, hey, man, if I get great angles and I surround myself with people who mean what they say as much as I mean what I say, then I should be able to beat someone that just has more advantages. And that equation has driven my entire life. It is the story of Navy football when we were there and we're at our peak. Like, hey, we played Notre Dame. There's going to be a gap in advantages, when it comes to talent and treasure. Mm. But that's only 1/3 of the equation. Like, if I've got angles and allies, I've got your ass if all you have is advantages. Yeah. Now, what's really scary in all the great ways is and this is kind of the arc of Ray Lewis, right? Ray had extraordinary advantages, right?
Lots of talent, yeah.
And then when the angles and the allies came alongside that talent, you're just like, this is going to be a tough day, man. Yeah. Tony Gonzalez, I remember we played Tony Gonzalez in the Aloha Bowl when he was a Cal. And he screwed me up pretty big because I was kind of like a water boy, like manufactured hatred and, anger was my fuel. I remember first play, he ran out and I hit him, pushed him in the helmet, shoved him in the head like I'm going to be here all day. This dude jumps up and he pats me on the helmet. And he goes, 51, you're a great linebacker. I really enjoyed preparing to play you and thank you for serving our nation. And he just trotted off the low. And I was like, so I spent the whole rest of the game protecting him. I'm like, he's down. Like, don't hit him. And like, called him sir. I was like, catch sir. Like, he just screwed me up. But that's an example where like him and Larry Fitzgerald and Brady, what you have is you have these advantages. But when you put angles, understanding your craft, and you put allies.
Great teammates.
And so buds for us is where you develop the allies. Like there's only way to forge that level of camaraderie is time and suffering. That's it.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have time, what do you have?
Suffering.
Right.
And so we suffered. And then you figure out who means what they say, right? Mm. And so, I don't remember what question you asked. No. Like my meds ain't kicked in yet. They will.
Well,
this will be great when my meds kick in.
We're talking about the difference between elite and
yeah, and I would like to go in those 4 pillars, like balance, curiosity, tribal.
So I call them the pursuit points. Because my whole thing is, hey, pursue elite, and these are the mechanisms in which you do it. So for me, there's 5 pursuit points. There's balance, curiosity, tribalism, intentionalism, and authenticity.
There you go.
And for me, balance is not an equal distribution of effort and time because it's not realistic, right? Like it's what I tell people is balance is building high ground for hard days.
Right.
Cause here's what you're going to have a hard day and you better have friends and family and faith that can remind you who you are and what you're about when the world tries to make you forget. Cause that's what the world's going to do. The world craves equilibrium. It doesn't like extraordinary. And so it's going to try to regulate that. It's going to try to bring, and you got to have these. Here's the most elite people I've always known is, hey, I know I'm going to need you and I don't know when. So I need to invest and nurture. If I expect you to be there for me when I need you and I know I don't know I'm going to need you, then I have to nurture that relationship. Mm-hmm. Like I never want to be the guy that when someone calls, they go, he must want something.
Oh yeah.
I'll never,
I know some of those guys.
I say I'll never be that guy. I'll never mean to be that guy. Mechanically, it may have happened, but it's never my intent. Right. And, you know, like we were joking, we were talking about scripture, like, hey man, when I'm on it, like I don't have time to find the scripture. I need to know it in the top of my head. Right. Mm. Like if you ask Kim and I if malfunction drill at the same time, we both look at you, tap, right, bang. Like it's so ingrained in us, we don't have to think about it. Right. And so, balance is having an answer for what to do when it all goes wrong, even if you do everything right. For me, I'll slow down real quick. So for me, this isn't a math equation. It's not balance plus curiosity plus tribalism plus intentional plus authenticity. For me, there are 5 lanes on the interstate to where you said you want to go. Exactly. And at any given time, one may be more dominant than the other. Sure. But you had to have situation awareness on the other 4. But as soon as I say that, what I will tell you is if you get, for me, curiosity is the on-ramp. It is what brings you there. Because if you get curiosity right, it kind of facilitates the others, right? So, and for me, one of the things I love about curiosity is it's a declaration of I'm not done yet. By asking questions, you're telling me you're in, that you're not complacent, right? So, for me, curiosity is 5 things. It's criteria. It determines our compatibility. If I've got 5 years and you've got 2. Conflict is imminent unless I know you got 2. If I know you got 2 and I got 5, I want to make these 2 the best years of your life, right? Like, but if we're unequally yoked from a horizons perspective, there's going to be conflict there. And I love you too much to not like you one day. So let me figure out what your horizon is. And we don't have to have the same horizons, right? Like I love people ending well, man. I'm not trying to vilify being done. I'm just saying if you're done, tell me. Because I want you to be done in a way that's spectacular and better than you ever could have imagined, right? So for me, we got to figure out what those horizons are. And so for me, curiosity is, if you're not curious and I am, let's call it now, right? The second thing is curiosity is courage. And it's the co-equal and precursor to physical courage. And I'm not diminishing physical courage when I say that. I know physical courage. I mean, I'm around men and women of valor all the time. You know, John's an example of this. And we went to an institution that teaches this. And I'm not diminishing physical courage. What I'm saying is you're brave because you had to be. Right. There's an element of inevitability to it. Like you got to, or you're not going to make it. And that's what raises curiosity to the terrain of courage, is because it's escapable. Like all you do is not do this and no one knows you don't know. No one know, right? And so for me, why don't we do this? Well, I'll only speak for myself, right? 51-year-old man, somewhat accomplished, been really fortunate. And to this day, when I'm in a room full of people that I respect and admire, to this day, I have a knot in the pit of my stomach when I have a question. Because I'd rather them think I know. Yeah. I'd rather you think I know. I'm afraid of the answer. I'm afraid of the work that comes with the answer. I'm afraid of admitting myself. I don't know. I'm afraid of what you'll think about me when you find out I don't know. That's always been the definition of courage, is action in the face of fear. Yeah, exactly. So when we see someone doing this, we know someone has courage. And I find courage to be a prerequisite for any good thing, right? I agree. So curiosity is criteria. It's courage. It's a creator. I don't want to answer for you. Every person has their own answers, but I would tell you everything in my life that I love is on the other side of a question that scared me. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Everything. Hey, I wonder if I can. I wonder if she will. Like, right. Everything, right? Curiosity creates careers and relationships and experiences that we wouldn't trade anything for, right? So curiosity is criteria, it's courage, it's creator, it's a catalyst. And this is something that we love about our community. Our community is like, there is no static in our community. Like, you're either getting better or declining, right? And like I use swimming as an example for this a lot. Like I love water sports. And the reason I love water sports is because the water always wins. I mean, there's humility that comes with water. Like everybody's fighting for second because the water's going to win. Like water's undefeated. I think that's what makes us kind of unique in the landscape of special operations is the water humbles us and we know it. So we're not peers with the water, right? And I tell people all the time, like Michael Phelps was the fastest person on the planet at not dying in the water.
Yeah.
He just doesn't die in the water fast, right? Because he knows the water's rules. You don't follow the water's rules, you're going to die. And Phelps's career is fascinating. If you look at some interviews for his last Olympics, he says something that's pretty remarkable. He says, "This is the first Olympics I trained for." You're like, what? Now, of course, he trained. He's not saying he trained. But what he's saying is this is the first Olympics he couldn't just show up and be better than everybody else. And so he started training with this kind of righteous fear, this urgency that righteous fear gives us. And because he did, he produced an Olympics we still talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, like, I have very few regrets. I don't think I do anything different, but I would do almost everything differently. I'd do nothing different, but I'd do almost everything differently. And if I could go back and tell the 24-year-old Clint anything, I'd say, hey, ask more questions than you want to, listen longer than you think you have to.
Yeah, right.
That's what I would tell me to do. Yeah,
for sure.
And I think I'd be here today, but thinner, more hair, less scars, right? But I'd still be here, right? And so for me, curiosity is a catalyst. And the last thing is, curiosity is criteria. It's courage. It's a creator. It's a catalyst, and it's a complacency killer. And complacency is a killer. Like it's,
well, that's how you stay average.
It's in the supply chain of every disaster. It's in the cocktail of any. It's just always there. And people tell me, like, man, for me, there's no discipline about not being complacent other than just staying curious. Like curiosity and complacency, they're incompatible. Like so if you're curious,
you're not asking questions
by default, you reject complacency. So there's no like, how do I become less complacent? It's more like, how do I stay curious? Because if I stay curious by default, I'm rejecting complacency.
Right.
And when we choose curiosity, a few things happen. One, we get better. Like this is what our senior listed are remarkable, man. And he's got his own stories. I got mine too. Like when you're a new guy, like you're throwing everything on you. Like you look like a mule. Like you got, and then, the funny thing is guys like, is that where you're wearing your knife? You're like, gosh damn it. You got to go you walk out there wearing their knife where they told you they were making fun of you. You're like, oh man. And so you do these gear explosions. What you find is the guys get better and older, they get leaner and faster. And so when the guy that's been on 10 combat deployments is not caring as much as you, it's probably because he knows more than you.
Right.
And he's embraced all the bigger, faster, smarter, stronger, all these other things. So one, when you choose curiosity, you add new, better, faster, smarter to existing proven, skilled, experienced, and wise. But not only that, you tend to attract people that are courageous. They want to create something they're proud of and be as good as they can be, as fast as they can be. And that doesn't even feel like work, man. That just feels like adventure. Right.
Yeah. Very true.
And so like,
those are the allies you want.
That's who you want, man. It's a criteria piece, right?
Yeah.
So, curiosity, tribalism, for me, when you see groups of people, you can call them one of four things. There's gaggles, groups, teams, and tribes. And what makes these things different is what yokes them together. So gaggles is yoked together by problems. Groups are yoked together by preference. We like the same stuff. Teams are yoked together by purpose. Hey, we have a common goal and we need diverse skills to pursue that goal. So we align for the pursuit of that goal. But sometimes that's all you do. It's a declaration of intent. Like there's 32 teams at the beginning of every NFL season. And in February, only 2 are left. Right.
Right.
And for me, tribes are the highest form of coexistence. Like throughout all of human history, tribes have affiliated for really 2 reasons: success and survival. Right. And so I say tribes, teams are united by purpose. Tribes are united by conviction. T.E. Lawrence once said, an opinion could be argued with, but a conviction is best shot because you'll hurt for a conviction, right? And what you see between a team and a tribe is the shedding of the self.
There you go.
There's a shedding of the self between the team and the tribe, right? And it manifests itself in speed. And the way I say it is like, you can see it. I go, teams row, tribes flow. There's a reduction. There's a fluidity in it, right? And what you're seeing is
also that loss of identity.
You're seeing the shed of the self.
Right. You become like a hive mind.
Listen, we talked about the Marine Corps earlier. Like the Marine Corps beats the you out of you, and now you're useful, and it's beautiful. You won't find any SEAL that doesn't respect the Marine Corps.
I love them.
All of them. Like if we're going somewhere like, Marines are all right. Like we just got to worry about them breaking stuff they're not supposed to break. But they're like,
so that's not, the same with us.
Not a peacekeeping force, right? Those boys are there to get you, and I love it about them, right? But so and that's kind of what Buds is. Buds beats the you out of you. So now you're useful. Right. And that's what I love about team sports and all these other things is putting healthy distance between you and you. Right. So you gain the perspective. Yeah, right. Yeah. And so, but for me, that's why I've always chosen really hard things. I've chosen really hard things. I'm going to need people around me that are better than me, and I'm going to have to listen to them, or I'm not going to make it. Right? There's this. I kind of paint myself into the corner of the person I say I want to be. Right? Mm-hmm. So balance, curiosity, travels, intentionalism. I think he'd tell you this. Like, when I left the NFL and came into training, there's like 250 guys that say they want to be SEALs, and at the end there's 12 of us left. Right? 12 original day one all the way through, right?
That's wild.
And it's nuts. And I would tell you, like, there's a meaningful percentage of the guys that didn't make it, they got hurt.
That sucks for them too.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they put all that time.
It's awful, man. You tear your shoulder. The body's got to vote, man.
Yeah,
it really does. True. Rock Portage has claimed a lot of good team guys, right?
Tell that story about Rock Portage.
Yeah. Rocks don't care. Yeah. Rocks been like, oh, you're a high school quarterback? Great. Face, meet the corner over here, right? Like it's just, so there's some harshness to it, but I think all of Buds exists to figure out whose conviction is they want to be a team guy, whose opinion is they want to be a team guy.
Right.
And it's not that clear. It's not all black. There's dudes that could have made it through training and they just don't want to do what team guys do. And I love that. Like be you and what you are, right? And probably the most talented guy in our class quit during Cake Week, and he was going to be honor man, and he just quit.
Honor man is like
the top grad, the best grad. I mean, I've never seen Buds be.
And he quit.
Yeah, because he's like, I know what we do as a community, and I don't know if I can do that, and I don't want to be a liability. So he became a helo pilot. And he's like, I want to rescue people, right? And he's he's a brilliant guy, but the know thyself piece, when he quit, every instructor lined up and shook his hand because of self-awareness it took he'd made it through training. There's, Cake Week's the last week. Like,
so it wasn't even a physical.
No, he made it. He would made it.
Way.
It was one of the most mature and profound know thyself moments I've ever seen. And
I bet he's successful today.
He's incredibly successful.
There you go.
And he's universally respected by every instructor, and every guy went through Buds with him. Yep. No one questions it because it was this self-awareness that it took the rest of us probably years to kind of cultivate, right?
Wow. If at all.
Yeah.
Still people are coming
cultivating would be the better way to say it, right? Right. For me, that intentionalism has kind of been the secret sauce for me, like always knowing why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because the what's are going to be there, and the what's are the one mores, like 1 more minute, 1 mile. And you know why you're doing what you're doing, the what stays small.
You talk about maps right from the beginning. You know where you're going.
I know where I'm going.
Right, and
so
that's fucking private.
Yeah. This will be a shocker for you. He already knows this. I'm not a runner.
You're not?
Oh, I know.
Dude, I thought you ran before you came to the show.
I know. You and Oscar both like that man is a gazelle. He can run for days.
You're just sweating. It's hot outside.
I don't like running. And we do a lot of running. Like you run 6 miles every day to chow. And I'm good with that one. Like I'm fine. I'll run that one.
Well, you're running the breakfast.
Yeah.
You know
lunch, yeah. And then, but you got these 8 mile condition runs. And I always joke when I talk about average, I say average has no secrets, but you can't learn anything from average. But I was at best an average runner. And you can learn something from that if you're a bigger guy. And I always tell guys, listen, if you're a big dude, here's the secret to big man running. Lean forward until you're about to fall over, then don't.
Yeah. It's momentum.
How far you got to go. It's like a controlled fall. Just lean forward.
One of your academy classmates was my Bud's OICs.
Oh, yeah.
Don Weatherby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Don's a big old boy, man.
Yeah. So
he's a different kind of big. Don's like a chiseled.
Yeah, exactly.
Good looking.
But he was struggling with the run. And
big dude.
He ended up learning how to run well.
He's killing it, man.
Oh, yeah.
He's killing it. And such a good dude. Stillwater's run deep with that guy. Right?
Yeah.
He doesn't talk, so when he does, you need to listen.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's right.
But yeah, so the way I always say it is, and this may be the thing that was my pivot point on the boardroom map, is I'd always known why I was doing what I was doing until my early 30s. And also I'm in the boardroom, and I didn't really know why I was doing what I was doing. Like, make a lot of money? Why? Like, And so for me, I had to slow down, and I that's the thing is I reinvented my why. And once I figured out my why, because you reinvent your whys all the time. Like when I was an 18-year-old, my why wasn't what I'm about to tell you. It was, prove people right, prove people wrong with every snap, right? People thought I could, I'm going to show them I could. People thought I couldn't, I'm going to show them I could, right? So my why, when I, my bride had her first daughter while I was over, and it took me longer to figure this out, but when we had our third daughter, I knew what my why was. My why was to be the kind of guy my girls want to marry one day. That's it. And who I am, what I do, who I do it for, and that man's going to be purposeful, passionate, protective, and provider. If he's not those four things, I'm not going to have to scare him off because my girls aren't going to want him. And if he is those four things, I'm still going to scare him off. So I always say, I believe everybody has to have a high why and a big why. And your high why is personal and your big why is professional. What I use my time, my treasure, and my talent. And once you get those things, it's not that you're unstoppable. You just won't stop yourself. So my high why, I want to be the kind of guy my girls want to marry one day. My big why, I want to work for the best leaders in America and create amazing careers for veterans and their families as they come home. And so commander's intent is what we call it. It's like commander's intent is that cardinal north that you reconcile all future decisions against, right? And once I figured that out, I was like, oh, got it. And then all of a sudden the boardroom took its right place in my world. And what I tell guys is the boardroom is just a gear locker. It's a place used to build, guard, and grow the breakfast table. And once it becomes functional to you, like he and I like SIGs because they issued us SIGs.
That's the pistol.
But you give him a Glock, he can run a Glock. He can run HK. Like, doesn't matter.
I actually love the HK, man.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. But I'm not, you and I know a bunch of guys are on a pretty significant raid. And if you went to those guys like, hey, man, you can go to this raid, but you can't carry a SIG. I don't know a single one of them like, well, I'm not going.
All right.
If I can't carry it, like, you give me a slingshot, give me black powder, I'm going on that thing. Usain Bolt's not fast because he's wearing Nike. He's fast. He can beat me in Crocs, right? But all of a sudden we get out and we look at these brands that we go to work for as our identity, and they're not. And the analogy I use is I go, hey, listen, industry is terrain. Companies are weapon systems and platforms. Leaders are teammates. Finance is jungle. Commercial real estate is desert. Like it's just a terrain. So choose your terrain, choose your weapon system, choose your teammates, and go.
Right.
Because the end state is the breakfast table. And like I said, like for me, it took me longer than it should have to kind of recapture that clarity I had on the ball field and the battlefield. But once I did, on the boardroom, I became the version of myself I like the most, right? And for me is, everything I do is, hey, is that the kind of guy I want my girls to come home with one day? Yes or no's come quick. Because all of life's about making decisions.
Well, it's also, they're obviously so close to you. You love them so much. It's a great way to continually measure how you're moving through life.
Yeah. And I extend that orbit beyond that. If I care about you, like, I want to, I always say if my girls come with a man like me, I better be okay with it because that's what I showed them. And so for me, like, I knew what kind of teammate I wanted to be on the battlefield. I knew what kind of teammate I wanted to be on the ball field. And okay, now I know what teammate I want to be at the breakfast table. And I tell people like, so I say, hey, my mission is to win the war on veteran suicide with the power of daily wins and a good day's work. And I define daily wins as add value to the kind of person you want to be around and learn from, that you already know how to do as you lead a battlefield and come to the boardroom. And a good day's work is provide for yourself and those you love by adding value to the kind of business leader you want to be around and learn from with what you already know how to do as you leave the battlefield and come to the boardroom so you can be at the breakfast table you said you'd be or you want to be when that season of life hits you.
Yeah.
And once you're there, you're like, oh, all right. The team guys are like, I want to go into mortgage. I'm like, really? Yeah, mortgages. I'm like, what? Okay.
Why?
I'm going to introduce a dude named Freeman Sawyer. Freeman Sawyer called me one time. I was like, hey, man, I just brought 400 acres in East Texas in cash, and I want to make the most adaptive hunting facility in America. What do you do? I do a mortgage. I'm like, oh, mortgage sounds cooler to me now. Like, hold on. I'm not going to. Yeah. And we weren't cool because we carried SIGs. We like, so for me, when you hold the boardroom, not loosely, but you recognize it as like, I play football. It didn't matter what helmet I had. Rydell, shoot, like I don't care. Like I love football, right? And that's the place we need to put the boardroom in. Boardrooms is, and you want to be great with whatever you're wearing. But man, once you look at it as a resource to build, guard, and grow the breakfast table, a lot of decisions become easier.
Right. Well, you bring it back to humanity instead of just money. And I think that's
people are going to care about you when you're gone, right?
Right.
So like the high why, and I believe it as high why is who you are and what they say about you when you're gone. And your big why is why do you use your time, your treasure, and your talent the way you use your time, your treasure, and talent. And if you have those answers, life is not easy, but it is simple.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, again, you have another X on the map. You're
gone.
It's
and this is what I love so much about, John, what you've been doing and Will as well. Like that fifth pursuit point is authenticity.
Right. Yeah.
And I tell people like authenticity is what you call vulnerability when you're not scared anymore. When you're scared is vulnerability.
That's where we wanted to go.
Yeah, we'll get into it. But let's talk about definitely both of those.
Yeah,
like authenticity and vulnerability is something we continually, we express it on the show as much as we can. That's part of our success. It's really two of the ingredients of our formula of success. It's like, being authentic, not giving a fuck, but giving a fuck. You know what I mean? In the sense of like knowing where we're going, knowing where we're driving, knowing like how, what we're trying, who our audience is, what we're trying to speak to them about, and help them to wake up to, but then being vulnerable enough to just like not have all the answers, like ask good questions, be really curious.
Man, the most elite people in the most elite organizations are the most authentic ones.
Yeah.
And there's a moral reason why, and we could dive into that, but there's also a tactical reason why.
Yep.
And I don't care why you're doing the right thing. I want you to do the right thing because it's the right thing. But if you're doing the right thing because it's produces an early result, that's fine. Like I tell these guys, like, hey man, you're going to make good decisions when it comes to my daughters. And you're going to make good decisions because you're a good dude. You're going to make good decisions because you're scared not to. And I don't care which one it is. I'd love you to make good decisions because you're a good dude, but if you're doing it because you're scared, that's fine with me too, right? And for me, authenticity is a harvester of time. And here's what I mean. As a species, we've agreed on one thing, 24/7, 365. We haven't agreed on anything else since then. Right. I mean, even the places where the sun doesn't set for 6 months or rise for 6 months, they still go 24/7, 365.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
So if we look at mistakes as increments of time, we begin to understand the significance of mistakes. This time's irrecoverable. You can only save it. Go back, you can't buy it. I mean, that's the fundamental decision with Bezos and Amazon. Basically, the whole thing is you can't buy time. You can only save it. Right. And so what authenticity allows you to do is not double down on irrecoverable time. And so if we go back to sports for this, like every team I ever played, me and Army on the clock, me and Air Force on the clock, me and Georgia Tech on the clock, man, the clock didn't care about either one of us. We both had 60 minutes at the beginning of the games. Right. And if I make a 2-second mistake, but I don't tell anybody about it, I've doomed 10 other guys to make a 2-second mistake. Now we lost 20, 22, 24 seconds, right? And so the most authentic organizations, they don't double down on the irrecoverable asset that they and the enemy both have the same amount of. So authenticity is the most supreme tactical advantage harvester there is, because you're harvesting the one thing we have the same amount of. Us and Al-Qaeda, same amount of time, ISIS, the same amount of time. We all got 60 minutes in an hour. And those who steward their time best win because they have more of it, right? That's why we focus so much on marksmanship. We're like we miss less. And because we miss less, we don't have to carry as much. And because we don't have to carry as much, we're not as tired when we start fighting. Like there's a supply chain to it, right? So for me, authenticity is the most tactically advantageous thing you can do. But that's not, for me, the moral advantage of authenticity is, I mean, you don't recover time. Like if I made a mistake and John was heading towards it and I stop him, I don't recover that time, but I do redeem it though. Yeah. Like what was maybe -8 is now maybe -6, -5. It may never be net positive, but I said this earlier, like shame is the shovel that Satan will use to bury you. Yeah. And authenticity slaps that shovel out of his hands. And redemption matters. Redemption is a big deal. And authenticity allows you to claw back time and pride and character from mistakes that we've made in the past.
What does that look like in the boardroom then? Authenticity. You know what
I mean? For me, ethics is a biological fact that you have to live with yourself for the rest of your life. And ethics determines how that feels, right?
There you go.
And so authenticity, on the boardroom, authenticity provides tremendous competitive advantage.
There you go.
Like if I'm faster from A to B,
right?
Because I watch how everyone else is getting to A to B, it's gonna mechanically, it's gonna produce a faster, better, more enduring result. What I've found in business is, especially when you're dealing with really successful people, is they crave authenticity.
You mean like in their talent, in their delivery, or just,
like, so like, I don't know if there's a person in my company that says sorry more than I do. And if I make a mistake with one of my clients, they're never going to hear about it from anybody but me. I'm going to say like, hey, I screwed this up. Here's why I screwed this up. Here's how it's never going to happen again. And in the boardroom, people crave authenticity and trust.
Right.
And so the
authenticity breeds trust.
The more someone knows, like, hey, I know that dude's going to tell me stuff he doesn't want to tell me. And all I want to know is what's going on. Like, you know, some of the young guys we'd work with, like, if I can trust you, then you're just going to get more tasks. You're going to get more trust, right? You know, so for me, authenticity, I think authenticity is the advantage on all the maps, right? Because it harvests time. You steward time better, and time is the only thing that really ultimately matters. Is how do I use the time that I have? I can't control how many days I have. I have no authorship over that. I can influence. I can not do dumb shit, right? But I'm total control how I steward the days that I have.
Right.
And so for me, authenticity is a stewardship.
What gives you the ability to reflect too, and then recalibrate, and then like get more.
Well, if you want to be of value to others, you have to reflect. You want to inventory your mistakes. So like, hey, dude, like I'm proactive. You know, I surround myself with young guys all the time, and I go, hey, and I go, hey, I did that. Doesn't work. Right. Like I did that. So for me, it's a form of recovery in a way.
Wonderful.
You know, rescuing others from the hole I dug myself even out of. Right. Like I love that. Right. And I think it's our function. I think our function is I tell guys all the time, like, hey, I want you where I am now, 15 years faster.
Right.
I have this kind of theory called championing, because you put an ing on the end of anything and it's a verb, right? So for me, as I've been around championship organizations, I've been a part of them, there's kind of 4 qualities that championship organizations always have. Ones that are winning over and over again. And what I tell people, there's passion, talent, precision, and endurance. The higher up you go, the less passion and talent matter. It's not because they matter. It's just everybody's got it. Like in the Olympics, everybody's got passion and talent. There's no difference there. So what's left is precision and endurance. And I look at precision maybe differently than others. For me, precision isn't being right more. It's being wrong less. And I think that's a more honest way to talk about, like being right more. That's kind of an academic kind of lab art. Right. Like wrong less it considers entropy and fatigue and chaos and all these other things. But for me, precision is being wrong less, and endurance is being wrong less for longer than your competition. Right. So I hate it when they go, he gets stronger as the game goes on. Like, no, he doesn't. No one gets stronger as the game goes on. You're seeing who declines slower. Like Usain Bolt gets fast slower than everybody else and gets slower than everybody else. And that's why he wins, right? And so for me, you know, precision. So how do you you just make new mistakes. Especially when you surround yourself with genius. Like in our community, we're surrounded by genius. Like all these guys are geniuses. And I'll go to the NFL. All those guys are geniuses. All of them are physical geniuses. More of them are intellectual geniuses than they know. When you look at the academic load of learning a playbook and triage and hiring to make a decision under pressure, I mean, the wiring for genius is there, especially with the complexity of some of these playbooks and stuff. So all these guys are geniuses. The worst thing you do to genius is stifle its creativity, because genius innovates the game. Right. Yeah. And genius is what evolves and innovates. And so if Barry Sanders is your running back, you have 2 plays. Barry run left, Barry run right. You just take notes. Yeah. Like, no, and you see Barry do something like, oh, other people can do that. That's a new play. And then you see those like, oh, it's just Barry. Only Barry can do that, right? But Barry evolves the game, right? And so I think as leaders, we got to tell our people, like, hey, make new mistakes. So when you're telling people to make new mistakes, you're giving them permission to create and innovate and evolve.
Yeah, take a risk.
But you're also demanding that they're a pro. Because in order to make mistakes, well, you got to know everything about your old ones.
Right. You're also leveraging trust.
If you're going to make new mistakes, you have to inventory your old ones. You have to know them. Like, that's why the most important thing for us is that AR. Like, you get off that bird, man, and you're downloading stuff, but you're circling up, 3 downs, 2 ups. You're learning from the last one because you don't have time to learn out there. You can only learn here. Right. And
the AAR is the after action report, after action review, debrief. Basically.
It's a chance to build that living library.
Yep.
That allows me to remember what you had to learn the hard way. Right. And you rising tides raise all boats. Like, we get to create this collective reservoir of knowledge and I'll tap into it. And because I may not have the margin to make it like you did, right? But now I learned what you had to learn the hard way. I get to, one of the greatest gifts you can give me is the chance to remember what you had to learn the hard way if I'll listen.
Right.
Like you can't control whether I listen or not, but that's every man's decision. But I can control whether or not you know or not. You got to decide whether or not you're going to listen. And so I think that's where it comes down to the moral obligation we have for authenticity, right?
Yeah.
I find it funny, kind of ironic that we're sitting 5 minutes from the Cowboys training facility and you used Barry Sanders, Detroit Lion, instead of Emmitt Smith.
Right.
I think you might have some Dallas.
Emmett would tell you Barry Sanders.
Well, no, Barry Sanders, he was a genius.
Yeah, I mean,
Emmett
would tell you, Emmett would be like Barry Sanders, right? But Emmett, same thing with Emmett. Like, you call 80% of a play and you just tell Emmett to be brilliant with the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And there's some environments where that creative genius won't work. And you look at Johnny Manziel, like that level of creative genius works in college. In the NFL, it doesn't work. Like, because you look at certain offenses, there's a really great head coach and he went from college to NFL. And I thought, I was like, hey, your offense isn't going to work in the NFL. And he's like, why? I'm like, your offense is based on inducing mistakes and exploiting the time window in that mistake. But your receivers in college got 0.35 seconds to get open. In the NFL, that's 0.15. Wow. Because this guy can change direction so much faster. Right, so your quarterback doesn't have the physics to throw a ball inside a 0.15 window, right? So the more that's why creativity matters up to a point, right? And reduce, make new mistakes and learn new ones and evolve constantly, and you can only do that when you ask questions, right? So. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on tangent highway, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I took you down that.
No, you're good. Like, I love this. This is your show.
Oh, yeah. So we're having fun with it.
Only I can make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So, we're talking about those pillars of being elite.
Yeah.
Right?
Balance, curiosity, metabolism, intentionalism.
Yeah. So we watched a pod with you recently. I guess it probably wasn't too recent, but the intentionalism, I don't think was a piece of it.
No.
It was originally 4 pillars.
Yeah. Well, it's always been there. It's always been those 5. So maybe I just didn't talk about it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that you mentioned there, the authenticity, and then I think you said fear makes it vulnerability. Did I pick?
No, what I say is authenticity is what you call vulnerability when you're not scared anymore.
Okay.
So it's again, I'm from Arkansas, so I could be using several words wrong right now.
Yeah, okay.
Correct, right.
That's
so
what
for me, authenticity is, vulnerability feels vulnerable. Right?
Yeah.
But when you crave authenticity and the advantage that comes from authenticity, vulnerability it's not as scary anymore.
We have to lean into it in order to.
Yeah. So that's why I say, authenticity is what you call vulnerability when you're not scared anymore. Is because you're just so, you understand the advantage of authenticity.
Exactly.
So the advantage trumps the apprehension.
Right.
Well, how do you get to that understanding? Because so many people reps and such.
It all comes down to reps, man.
Right.
All it comes down to reps.
I feel like courage too. That's part of it too.
Like, how do you get good at pull-ups? Like, do pull-ups.
Yeah.
How do you get a running? You run.
One of our instructors one time, man, on a Friday, he's like, all right, I know some of you guys are struggling with pull-ups. Why don't you guys come in on Saturday? So, because you don't come in on the weekends and buds. We come in on Saturday, we're like, oh man, we're going to get all this.
We're going to get the gouge, man.
We're going to get the gouge on how to do better pull-ups. He's like, all right, I'm at the bar. Do more pull-ups.
Exactly. Exposure.
Newsflash. Do the thing.
Oh man, I was pissed.
There's an awesome, I'm a visual guy, and that's why I love books and movies and songs, because these people know how to say things better than I do. And I remember I was on deployment. Remember, we're all reading Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield.
Oh, yeah.
Seminal. If you're an operator, you've read Gates of Fire, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you've given it away to a lot of people.
Well, I know. I'm very familiar with his Turning Pro.
Yeah. I mean, the War on, yeah, he's incredible. He's incredible.
Yeah.
But, I remember we were deploying and we were in Diego Garcia because we were going for PACOM CENTCOM. And I read the scene in Gates of Fire where Queen Gorgo, Leonidas, and Lady Perle were there. And King Leonidas articulates to the lady, so he chose her husband and her son
to be part of the 300.
And he pulled her aside to explain it to her. And I get choked up when I think about this. And I didn't know how to tell my bride how brave she was. I couldn't. I didn't know how to say that. I mean, she has her child, and I'm deploying, and we know what I'm deploying into. And I just marvel at her. And, in the scene, he goes, do you wonder why everyone fears the Spartans? And his queen and Lady Perle don't say anything. Is it because we're the only professional soldiers? And he goes, it's not what it is. It's because of our valor in combat. And he goes, it's not what it is. He looks, he goes, what makes Sparta different is our women. Because when we fall, all of Greece will look to our women. And if our women stand, Greece will stand. And if our women fall, Greece will fall. It's the courage of our women that makes Spartan men great. And I read that to my wife because I didn't know. Obviously, I got to be around people who get what I don't know how to say until I figure it out, or I don't want to say it anymore. And so, you know, there's a Miles Teller's a really, really gifted actor. And there's a movie he's in where he talks, it's a boxer who broke his neck and he came back. It's a really great movie that I can't remember the name of right now, but there's a scene where he's getting interviewed by a reporter and she talks about kind of how shady boxing is. And he's like, what's the biggest lie you ever told? And he goes, it's not that simple. And she goes, why isn't it that simple? He goes, no, that's the lie. The lie is, it's not that simple when it is. You just do the thing. The thing they're telling you not to do, that's what you do. You do the thing.
Yeah.
You know, how do you get more authentic? You be authentic, man. Like, you know,
well, I think you need to go through that. The authenticity can come with a lot of embarrassment, a lot of like, you need, like, you have, that's part of the rep. That's part of, we had Jocko on and he was talking about exposure.
Yeah. You got to see your greatest fear and not watch it not happen. Like you fear rejection. And so you share the thing you think someone's going to reject you and they go, and they're still there. You're like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
Not only did they not reject me, like money's always been a little bit of a struggle for me because I didn't have it when I was growing up, and I watched it ruin a lot of people. And I raised some capital when I first started my company, and every guy that I had talked to, they all looked at me and go, hey, I don't understand your business, but I understand you. I'm investing in you. And every time I said that, I had this impulse to share my personal finances with them. And I was like, well, don't do that. Like, they're going to reject you if they say that. Right? So I didn't. And so it was about 6 months, almost a year. And I finally asked them all to go to breakfast. And I laid these folders down on the table. And they're like, what's that? I'm like, that's my personal financial statement. And they go, why are you showing this to us? I'm like, well, because everyone you said you're investing in me and not our company. And when you said that, I wanted to show you my finances, but then I was scared because, you know, I thought we needed the capital and so, but what it's done is it's kept me from asking you for your wisdom and your experience and insights. And I crave that more than anything else. And I just don't like making decisions out of fear. So here I am, you know, and so they're all flipping through it and it was agonizing. Like they're like going, I was like, oh. And one guy's like, what's the BAM? Like, the BAM's a big ass mistake. So the lesson of the big one is don't buy a big truck after a good month, buy it after a good year. So I just started atoning for these mistakes that I thought were catastrophic and horrific and no one ever made before in their lives. And then one of them kind of looked at me and so one of them sitting on the corner. I can see it happening right now. He goes, Clint, I've invested in a lot of companies, a lot. He goes, I own a lot of companies. I've never had a CEO voluntarily show me his personal finances. And the guy that goes, especially something that looks like this. And I'm like,
right.
Oh, like, I'm not trying to set any records or anything here, man, but I just don't want fear to be between you and me. And then one of the other guys goes, hey, did I ever tell you about the time I lost $3 million of my boss's money? And then around the table, all those men started showing me, and I just feel myself going like, oh, and they're like, hey, why would you think we were perfect in the first place? Right. And none of them, I mean, all of them that wasn't a key to the conversation. Like every one of those men is very free of their mistakes in the past. It was me getting out of my own way.
Right.
And, you know, knowing I'm surrounded by men that are men too, man. And it was a pivot point for me and so the only, I promise you, I mean, people who are watching this, like there's something you want to tell someone you love because you think they're going to reject you. And I can't say they won't, but I will tell you if they're who you think they are, they won't.
Yeah. And
you get to watch them prove it to you. I mean, isn't that what love is being fully known? and
Yeah,
love.
you won't even
seen.
you won't know if you're not authentic and vulnerable, right? Like,
and it's so much easier, man. I mean, like authenticity is like, I don't know, you know, some of the SED stuff, you know, and all that other stuff, like that full poly lifestyle. That when you're doing some of the intelligent stuff, like it's exhausting. You got to keep track of all the lies.
Yeah.
And that's like cardio. And I don't like cardio. Right? Like, so I'm not going to maintain it the cover. I'm like, that's too hard. Like, I'm going to do it.
I'll just tell the truth.
If you're going to reject me now. I remember my bride, we, you know, I have this, talk about authenticity. I have this t-shirt that says I beat anorexia because look at me. And, I'm not trivializing.
Yeah.
It's an inside joke between my bride and I, because my bride was at the University of Arkansas. And I was playing in Navy, and my sister was at the University of Arkansas. So I flew from Navy to Arkansas because I wanted to see my sister and meet her sorority sisters, because I just want to make sure they're good people, because I care about my sister, and I want to make sure all her friends are good people. And this
is before you met.
This is when I met her.
Yeah,
this is when I met her.
Okay.
And man, I was done the minute I was like, "Hey, you want to get married?" She's like, "Can we go on a date?" I'm like, "Sure." And
That's amazing.
So we went on a date, and it was like. We went to Olive Garden, and it wasn't even all you can eat breadsticks night. Like, you know that one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You fill up on breadsticks. Like, oh, you're full. You want to get some yogurt? You do the whole date, like $12. It wasn't breadsticks night, and she ordered this grilled chicken Caesar salad, and she was just kind of picking at it. And I come from a family where you eat what you order.
Yep.
And I was sitting there watching her, and I was having this internal dialogue. And this guy's like saying, like, don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything. But I was born in Arkansas. So this guy's like, yeah, man, throw it out there, buddy. See what happens, right? So I remember just turning and looking at her and just going, hey, I really like you. And I think you could really like me. And I think we'd have something amazing here. But if you don't strap on the feedback, we're going to have some issues. That was $9.89. I'm not taking a salad home with my, I went this whole rant. Oh, you eat what you order. What I didn't know at the time is my bride was knee deep in the throes of anorexia.
Oh,
man, it had her. And its hooks and claws are deep, and she just kind of bought it. And everyone in her life that loved her was just yelling her like, no, just be you. You're beautiful. And I didn't cure her, but I'm part of the choir. Yeah. And I did not save her, but I'm part of the symphony. And here's why that's so important, man. I've got 3 daughters.
Yeah.
And if anything, the world's harder now than it was then. The pressures my daughters face to look and be and do are extraordinary. And in eating disorder, the numbers tell me an eating disorder is going to come to my house, either on my girls or one of their friends. And I'm okay with it because I know what my bride's going to do. Mm-hmm. My bride's going to go, hey, babe, I'm going to go talk to the girls. And I'll go, do you want me to come? She'll go, no, I'll go. And she will roll up her sleeves and she will share her scars and she will save them such pain. Because that's what you do when you're brave. Yeah, and right. So I live with an authentic, courageous woman. And because I do, I've got authentic, courageous girls, right?
Right.
Well, they've also got an authentic, courageous dad.
Right,
yeah.
right. And you live it. It's,
you know, and I tell, you know, one of the gifts I've always tried to give my daughters is letting them know their dad's not perfect, right? And because my dad died when I was young, and then I made him perfect, and then I chased him.
Oh, wow.
You don't talk about setting yourself up for failure, right? So I deified this dad that I loved and I missed, and I was trying to make proud. And you know, I'm not convinced anybody in heaven cares what's happening down here because they know how great heaven is. But if my dad would look at me like, hey, who are you chasing?
Yeah,
like who was?
Because that's not me.
And I'll tell you, one of the greatest gifts I was ever given is some of my dad's friends pulled me aside. And he goes, hey, man, we love and miss your dad. This was probably 15 years after my dad died. And they're like, listen, we love your dad. We miss him too. But who do you think your dad was? And I listed all these things that my dad was. And they go, yeah, he was. But he was also this. And they introduced me to the humanity, the fallibility and that made my dad human. Right.
Right.
And they're like, listen, we're a little bit nervous because, you know, you're violent guy. Like we love your dad, but we're going to tell you your dad really was, because we can see what you're doing now. You're vilifying yourself as a dad, and you're comparing yourself to your dad. But it wasn't your dad. But this whole thing is like, I always tell my girls, like, if you're going to compare anything, compare everything. If you're going to compare the house, compare the loveless marriage. If you're going to compare the car, compare the hole in the heart that a car will never feel, right? So, you know, I just kind of chase, pace, and pull kind of theory. And my deal is like who you're chasing and what's life going to look like when you catch them, right? And then to keep pace with people that are they're going to hold you accountable. They're going to leave you behind if you don't do the work. And you got to pull someone behind you, or you'll be doing the thing longer than you want to, or longer than you're good at it. And both of them are a disservice to the thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about our community, man. Like in our community, like do your job. We're not going to wait on you to get better. Like you got to. So there's this kind of self-policing. There's this kind of collective desire to get great, right? And so to bring it all back to the high ground, it for me it took me longer than it should have. But I remember I was down in my office, and I'd love for y'all to come down sometime. But we have a shoot house in our office, a semi-distance facility. My bride calls my office the Honor Lost Boys. I'm like, what are you doing? What do you mean? She goes, listen, if a 14-year-old is in their office waiting for their mom to come pick them up from football practice, it would look like your office. And I'm like, so we have a shoot house, we have climbing walls, we have a gym, we have a shower that can chip paint. I mean, and I was like, yeah, well, your office would be pretty small. She's right. Like, you know what? And she's like, you're like the world's biggest. You're a 51-year-old, 9-year-old. I'm like, you are.
That's what we talk about ourselves.
Super mature response. I know you are, but whatever. And the way you always get to the high ground, I was just having a really hard day. And the way I see it is there's a difference between being here and being home. Here's geography. Home is knowing why you're here. That's why so many of us can feel more at home over there than here, right? And I remember being down at the office and I was just coming to grips with just how I wasn't the husband and daddy and friend and boss, and teammate that I wanted to be. And I kind of came to it because like, I'm here, but I'm not home. And so I was looking at the door 3 to our shoot house and I'm a visual guy. I'm like, okay, everyone I love, everyone that needs me is home, and home is on the other side of that door and I'm here. So how do I get through that door? And then C4. C4 is amazing, man. C4, you can cook with it. You can blow stuff up with it. C4 is incredible. But for me, C4 became an acrostic. I think that's what you call it. And for me, C4 instantly became career, compete, contribute, and catalyst. And what I realized in that moment, and this all happened really quickly, I think it was the culmination of some deep dives and conversations or whatever. What I realized in my mid-30s was my career, while I was on the ball field and the battlefield, was competing, contributing, and catalyst.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden,
many of us are victim to that.
I was burdening the boardroom with providing the satisfaction that only all 4 of those things could do, right? So I've got about 18 months, almost 2 years of a daily checklist that was C. Hey, career. And it's ones and zeros because I'm either too harsh or too generous. There's no letter grade. Hey, career. Did I go to work? You can't have a good day unless you go, right? 1 or 0. Hey, did I compete in something, or did I train to compete in something? 1 0. Did I help someone that can't help me? I think there's a hole in our soul that can only be filled by service to others. That's contribution. And that I get better. I've got, I don't know how many 4 check days I had, but I had a lot of 2s and a lot of 3s. And our feelings are real, but they respect facts. And what that C4 became, it became my instrument panel when I was in that fog bank. And I was like, where I could orient and understand. I was like, okay, I went to work, I trained, I helped somebody, and I got better. And all of a sudden I could feel my brain going, okay, you're not lost. You might be wrong, but you're not lost. Mm-hmm. And that's my biggest thing is like, don't be lost. Don't be lost. And sometimes you're not even wrong. You're just early, but don't be lost.
Yeah.
And so for me, those maps have always, that C4, that's kind of a thing that's, come all the way home. And everybody, that's not unique to the veteran experience. Like all of us wonder who we are sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And my deal is like, there's some, I think, like I said, feelings are real, but they respect facts. And what I realized I was doing is I was, the amygdala, the monkey brain is just going to take over. Like if it thinks it's not going to be like
anytime.
And all of a sudden I would see that career could be true catalyst and monkey brain, I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
We're not lost. Because all monkey brain really cares about is whether you're lost or not, because lost equals dead. And if it knows you're not lost, then it'll let you live a little bit. And so finding just a 4 instrument panel that let me know I wasn't lost, that's when I started coming all the way home and trying to help other guys have their version of that as quickly as they can.
Like
and that's why I say, and it would help me. Like I would pull up in front of the house and I'd look at my CCC, like, okay, went to work, trained, helped someone, didn't get better, didn't, and when I'm talking about the physiology of getting better, like learning a new skill, playing the banjo, right and left-handed. There's stuff that happens in our brain when we're trying to learn a new thing. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's not the moral get better. It's like literally gain a new skill, right with your left hand, all those other things, right? There's some physiology that comes with doing something like that. And I'd pull up and I remember very vividly at a really hard day at work. And I pulled up in front of the house. And this was when I was really trying to beat drinking. Cause I struggled with drinking for a long time, which is kind of shocking to a lot of people because I never drank first beer I ever had was I was 29, right?
Wow.
I just never, cause I didn't have the margin. Like I couldn't,
wow.
One, I wanted to be a good role model, but two, I was like, I don't have the margin to drink and still perform at a high level, right? So it was practical as much as it was, want to be a good role model, right? But for me, and then all of a sudden had evidence, like I could see a trend, and I was like, oh, hey, that's 8 days in a row that I've gone to work, worked out. And so there's something about facts, and facts can be relative as long as they matter to us, right?
Right.
And so for me, it all comes down to like, just don't be lost, man. Don't be lost. Be wrong. And a lot of times if you're wrong, you're not even wrong, you're just early. But don't be lost.
Yeah.
That's what I feel about my faith. I told people, like, man, if you want to go from lost to being wrong, you pick up that Bible, like it's a map written for you by a creator that wants you home again.
Right.
That's all it is.
And it'll keep bringing you back home.
It's a love letter that'll lead you back home. And it's written to you by an all-knowing creator that loves you. And he just wants you to come back home, right? And I said, I tell men, like, this is my faith. Like, man, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what helped me is like, you pick up that Bible and you read it like it's a letter leading you back home, and you can go from lost to being wrong like that. Right. And the fastest way to go from lost to being wrong, in addition to that, is you surround yourself with guys who know what it's like to be you. They can tell you, like, hey, man, you're not lost. And you got to believe them. Like, so if John says, man, I feel lost, John's like, you're not lost. Then I'm in a decision where I go, okay, he's a liar or he's right. Which one's more probable? Well, I know he's not a liar, so he must be right. So I'm not lost. Now, maybe I'm wrong. That's a second conversation. But that's why we're supposed to run with each other. Hey, man, I feel lost. Hey, you're not. You're on the phone with me. And the fact that you're on the phone with anybody means you're not lost. Or I'm lost too, and I'm not lost.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's land nav, I might be. I might be lost. Like, officers are famous for being lost. Like, John and I just been lost together. Had to find some E4 come and save us. Like, they found a golf course again.
Steve Osborne.
Whatever, right? And,
Steve Osborne was my point man. That guy saved me more times.
Dude, Wyoming be like, hey, sir, Wyoming and Fro. I had two amazing point guys. Those dudes Wyoming can make sir sound like the dirtiest word on the planet. Like,
sir.
Hey, sir. Like, you just call me an asshole? Like, no, I said sir. I'm like, you an asshole. Like, I know what that sir sounds like, And Fro is legendary. I don't know if you know Eric Fro. Eric,
yeah, sure do.
Dude, Fro and I did 2 platoons together. Like, any guy that names his kids after the Dukes of Hazzard characters is just gonna be a special dude. Fro's amazing, man. I mean, we live with lions, man. Like,
and learn from them.
I've not always, I would say I've not always been right, but I've almost always been around the right people.
Yeah.
And
well, that's
because
what it takes.
Because I've been around the right people, I've rarely been lost. I've been wrong a lot,
Yeah, that's how you find your way.
That's it.
I mean,
that's it, man. And it's that's why on my LinkedIn says fortunate. I'm like, why do you say fortunate on your LinkedIn? I'm like, because I'm fortunate. Like, it's like,
say it on your website.
I do pull-ups. I mean,
I don't think people appreciate that enough.
Simple.
Yeah.
Like the being fortunate, like especially
Buddy.
lives are leading.
Yeah. Like people ask me about my background. I'm kind of like Forrest Gump. You just kind of lean forward, try hard, take notes.
Lieutenant Dan.
Keep running.
Like Jen A. And
I kept running.
And I kept running. And so
Old school.
Oh,
we
man.
got like 5-10 minutes. We got.
Well, I mean, like so much of what we have here in our notes you covered
in a random and non-sequential way.
No, man, but it's
this is encrypted.
Very natural.
This is an encrypted. This is encrypted.
Yeah,
Chinese Communist Party listens to this.
We're gonna chop this up big time, dude.
Just the high ground, man. We're looking for the high ground. Yeah, well, I mean, tell us, about carry the load and how that
carry the
load.
Well, so carry the load is part of that C4.
Yeah,
career, compete, contribute, have a catalyst. And for me, it was a form of contribution. You take care of the boys take care of you. And for me, carry the load, it kind of started for me after Red Wings. It was the Memorial Day following Red Wings, and I was I was mad. I was livid for two reasons. One, I was mad because the nation wasn't doing Memorial Day the way I needed them to do Memorial Day, given all that we had lost. Mm-hmm. And then I was more mad at me because I hadn't done Memorial Day well until I started losing my friends too.
Right.
So I was mad at me more than I was mad at everyone else.
Yeah. So again, real quick for our audience.
Yeah.
June 28th, 2005. That's Operation Red Wings. We lost 3 SEALs on the ground, another 8 SEALs in a helicopter, along with 8 Army Night Stalkers. Yeah. Total loss of life, 19 men. Like instantly. So.
Wow. Yeah, it was awful. And, and I always tell people, like, when you breathe that rare air, it's all you want to breathe again. And it's what you want to share with everybody, right? Like when you've had that tribal existence, right? And so I remember we were at a barbecue. And so if I use the word civilian, it's not derogatory, but it's not necessarily complimentary. It's kind of like a neutral thing.
That's not calling me like, sir.
But if I say say citizen, a citizen is a positive. Like so if you're a civilian, you're just managing downside risk and generally being compliant, right? If you're a civilian, a citizen, you're doing more than that. Mm-hmm. You're pointing a community. You're doing more than you have to for folks you don't know, right? So, so I was at some friend's house, and there's great American citizens they hadn't served, and it's a really affluent part of town. And I was just, and my bride came up to me and she said, "Hey, you're scaring everybody." I'm like, "I'm not scaring everybody." And she showed me a picture, and I've got tattoos and beard, and I'm just leaning against the wall. I'm like, maybe, right? And she pulled me to the side of the house. She put her hands on my shoulders. She goes, "Listen, I love you. And I miss them too. And I know you miss this." And she just gestured to the weekend. And she goes, "But I've never seen you not do something about things that bother you. So do something or get over it."
Wow.
And I mean, we've been together since my second class.
I can see why you married this woman.
Yeah, she's smoking hot too.
There you go.
I got to tell you something about smoking hot, and we coming back.
Yeah.
So I met my wife at SEAL Team 10.
Oh yeah.
She was the PA.
That's dangerous.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We had Afghanistan romance, but when I first got there, I was writing down little attributes of everybody, like, okay, bald, tall, and Becca walks in. I'm like, smoking hot.
Smoking hot. Ricky Bobby.
Yeah. So she grabs you by the shoulders. Yeah.
And so I went home and I put a pound in my pack for every person that I'd lost. And I just kind of started going. I mean, in Coleman says it really well. Good pain pushes out bad pain. Right. And,
that's interesting.
And so so I just was going, and and so I can remember this vividly. There's a place here in Dallas called White Rock Lake, and there's this beautiful kind of 10-mile circuit, and I was just going around it, and it was hot and it hurt, and I needed that because like Coleman says, good pain pushes out bad pain. And, Chris Kyle said that to me too before he lost him.
Yeah.
And, I came around the corner, and there's this kind of World War II gentleman. I could just tell. These are like ramrod straight, this military bearing that you have when you save the world and you know it. And I revere that generation, right? Yeah. And they're imperfect just like the rest of us because their name's not Jesus either, but they're a pretty remarkable generation. And I was going to say something to him as I got close to him. But as I got close to him, he actually said something to me first. And I pulled my headphones out. And he said, "Son." I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Who are you carrying?"
Wow. He knew.
I shared a name with him that was on my mind, and he didn't even say anything. He just kind of knew. And so I would do that, every Memorial Day. I just put on my pack, and sometimes it started at midnight. And I tell people, like, Memorial Day is midnight, Monday through.
Right? Sure.
And I don't want people to, like, our friends that we miss would have celebrated and had great parties on Memorial Day too. But they would have remembered why you're doing it. So it's not about mourning though, but it's about celebrating and remembering, right? And I would just go, and I'd go, 40, 50 miles and call my wife, and she'd come pick me up. And so what happened is these great American citizens, and they were like, "Hey, can I walk with you?"
Another Forrest Gump moment.
And I didn't, I didn't thought about that till just now, but I didn't really want to at first because I thought I craved solitude, but I didn't. I craved sincerity, not solitude. And,
there you go.
And so they would start, and they would tell me about their uncle, and I just fell in love. And
wow.
And so I was like, "Hey, who are you carrying? Who are you carrying?" And so it turned into this. And I remember calling Stephen Holly, and they going, "Hey, I want to do this. Will you do this with me?" And so we did the first carry the load, and it was down here at White Rock Lake, it was a 20-hour and 11-minute walk around White Rock Lake. And it was awesome. And it was like, Holly comes from a big family. So it was a week before. like 48 people had signed up and 30 of them related to Steven. And, but then like 800 people showed up and I was shocked. It wasn't even the end of that Memorial Day where people are coming up to me, Great American says, go, hey, I've already called my friends. Where are we doing this next year?
Yeah.
And so the following year we did it down at this place called Reverchon Park. But what we also did is we walked to Dallas from the cemetery of West Point.
Wow.
And that's what Coleman did. So Coleman, we were in at this 36
Dallas, West Point, fucking New York.
So every 5 miles, so beginning in the month of May, and every 5 miles we'd walk 24/7, and every 5 miles you'd walk with a family if somebody lost somebody. And who you're carrying, and they tell you, and you tell them. And I would carry Megan Valentine on my shoulders, Tommy's dog.
Yeah, Tommy V.
I'd carry Megan on my shoulders, and I'd walk with the sons, and then we did it. What was awesome as I watched these kids grew up. And you go back the 5th year in a row, and this kid's like, hey, you're back. I'm like, I told you, no one's going to forget your dad. We're not going to let my dad died when I was young. And to this day, if someone walks in the room and says, hey, I knew your dad, I just, I don't want anybody to ever forget him because I need help remembering him.
Right.
And
you're young.
And one of the things Steve and I said is like, I want our kids to not remember not doing Memorial Day well. My oldest is 22 and she doesn't remember carry load without Memorial Day without carry load. And what's amazing now, like Steven, I retired from it because I'm an invasion guy. I'm not really an occupation guy. So once there's a bunch of spreadsheets, I'm like, like sometimes you need a linebacker, sometimes you need a quarterback. And, I felt like Steven he was a better leader for the season we were in. And then I needed to kind of square some things away. But it's kind of taken on a life on its own now. Like people, so it's incredible. And I think we've given them something like 42 million.
Yeah, we looked it up this morning.
And this is something you do every Memorial?
Every Memorial Day.
Well, why don't maybe, like this is usually like, I don't know if I could do like a fucking 3-week trek from Dallas to.
Well, no one really does. No one really does. There's
Oh, okay. So you just have little
5 mile legs.
Yeah.
So it's 5 mile legs.
Oh, got it.
And I think when I did the national relay last, I think we walked with something like 30,000 people.
Wow.
There you go. Right.
We had like 4 different relays going on, East Coast, West Coast. And then, in Dallas, I mean, on Sunday, we'll have 25,000 people on a 3-day weekend in Dallas.
Amazing.
They'll come in from the lake.
Yeah.
To walk for a little while. And my whole thing is like, it's all relative. Like my sister, I get choked up when I think about this. Like my sister, I have an older sister. Like that first year, I don't know, I probably did 40 something miles and stuff like that. And she did 6. And her 6 meant more than my 48. Because my thing is carry more than you have to further than you think you can for someone you miss or someone you wish you would have known and missed.
Right. Wow.
And I'll tell one story about carry load is Megan. So Megan and her mom and her brother JT had come down to Dallas just to be a part of carry load. And we carried Adam Brown this year. So we had Adam's portrait was on the bus and we drove the bus through Hot Springs and his daughter Savannah lives right by Katie Trail Ice House. And she sent me a picture on Monday morning. She'd started walking and she walked right into the storyboard that told the story of her dad. It was really incredible. Yeah. And, so I'm carrying Megan, I'm carrying my daughter. And then, I put Megan down and she hangs out with her mom. And so Maddie, my oldest, we're kind of walking on a trail and she's holding my hand and she kind of looks at me and she's the old soul. She's the one that was born while I was over and she's the one that endured most of my mistakes and was just the most aware of them, and, she's kind of like my protector. It's really inverse of what it should be. And so we're holding hands. She goes, Dad, are you sad? And I said, yeah, I'm sad. I said, but I could be sad because I miss my friends, or I could be sad because I never knew such men. I'll take this sad.
Yeah.
You can choose your sad. You can't often choose whether or not to be sad, but you can choose which sad you're going to be. And so for me, and it was interesting. The weekend before we lost Chris, I was at an event with Tay and Chris and Chris and I were just texting and, and,
American Sniper.
Yeah. And it was the best I'd seen him. It was the best I'd seen him in Tay. And, I was in some ways the Keiko for that. And, we talk about that, like, it's, I'd rather be sad because I miss my friends than to have never known, someone like Groove, someone like,
Groovy,
Louie and, all the guy, Chris, and, all the guy, Dan. I mean, like that's the price of admission, right? And that's the cool thing about authenticity, man, is when you grab those memories, only the gold kind of comes up with you. I mean, like the good stuff stays with you, and the stuff that you're afraid of tends to fall off to the side, right? And you fear rejection, so you share this thing that you think people are going to reject you, and only ones that you don't need to be around will. Like there's a culling that happens with authenticity.
I think there's also remembrance that happens too, because you're remembering, like that's like, one thing that we've talked about before, but like authenticity is the highest ranking emotion and experience
100%.
Energetically above love, kindness,
100%.
anything.
And,
It ranks
and
like,
I think the one that connects you.
yeah,
with
it's a
others.
mortar. It's like kind of a,
Because all these, I mean, the palette of emotions is shared across all humanity.
right.
The experiences may be different, but those experiences reverse engineer into a particular emotion that is not unique to any human, right?
Right.
And so that palette of emotions we all draw and we all share that, right?
Right.
And John, I'll tell you that with an oversimplification. I think there's three kinds of people in the world. There's good people doing good things, good people doing bad things, bad people doing bad things. And there are bad people doing bad things. There is absolute evil, and you deal with them on their terms, right? Like every mission's a capture kill, but the bad guy gets a vote. Hey, stop it. No. Okay. Right. But the vast majority of the world is either good people doing good things or good people doing bad things. And the ultimate application of American might is to change the circumstances to where good people doing bad things can start doing good things. And I would tell you, there's not a lot of evil people in the world. Most people are good. Most people are good people doing.
Of course.
And even though, I think, good people doing bad things because they're scared, quelled, coerced, or uninformed, and you alter those circumstances. But most people are good. And there's a lot to be hopeful about, right?
Amen.
And authenticity is what allows you to have that conversation.
Right. And really see the person who
Well,
they
you
are.
see it. You deal with the shakes and some of these other things.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden you see the way they treat their kid. And you're a father too. And the minute, there's a total language barrier, total cultural barrier. But all of a sudden you're seeing a guy love his daughter and he knows you have a daughter too. And now you're having a different conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, very
And
true.
so I think the palette of human emotions is shared across all humanity, and authenticity allows us to kind of create those bridges where we didn't think there were any.
Yeah, I agree.
And preserve bridges that we thought were going to blow up once we told everybody the truth. Like, man, here's what you don't know about me. And we're like, oh, really? One, I did know. So now you're just being honest with me.
Yeah.
And or two, I struggle with that too. Right. It's liberating.
Yeah. I thought one thing I thought to be close. You mentioned like a gun versus a weapon.
Yeah.
I love to hear your weapon. What would be your weapon of choice, if you would?
Doesn't have to be different.
No, but I like the map. But I think
what came to first? Did something come to mind?
Yeah, it sure did.
Yes.
My heart.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my heart. I think, and it comes to authenticity and vulnerability.
Yeah.
If I am connected with my fellow man, woman, fellow warrior next to me, like you were talking about your bride, my bride is that warrior. Holy cow!
Yeah.
And if I'm connected with that, then there's nothing that could stop us.
Yeah.
I always feel like, hey, the boys know you don't know.
Oh yeah.
The boys know you don't know. You're like an ensign, Lieutenant JG, whatever, right? So the boys already know you don't know. And when you let them know you don't know, then they just know they can trust you.
Yeah.
When the boys trust you, they are legendary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say mine would be kindness. That's the first thing that come up for me is being kind.
That's a good one.
And that's like, and being also not just kind of others, kind to yourself is where it really starts.
Do you think there's a distinction between being kind and being nice?
Yes.
Huge.
Absolutely. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you what it is. Right. So I heard this joke, right? You might have heard this.
No, go ahead.
So there's two different people, right? East Coast, West Coast, right? West Coast people are nice, right? East Coast people are kind, right? If you have a flat tire, right? And you're on the side of the road, you have a flat tire. Someone from the West Coast would drive by. It's like, oh my God, sorry you have a flat tire. That sucks, right? And they'll just drive on. Right? A kind person like from New York will come and help you fix the tire.
Make fun of you the whole time.
Make fun of you the whole fucking time.
You think you're doing
and that's but they make fun of you like, well, you know how to change your goddamn tire. What's wrong with you? As he's changing your fucking tire.
I like that.
But
what would you say the difference between kind and nice?
Oh, so I actually use this.
And again, this is semantics. Right?
Yeah.
So
no,
so
it is,
I think
a
lot of the time,
the
kind person is being, or sorry, the nice person is being nice because they're a people pleaser and they just want to be seen as nice.
Yeah, totally.
The kind person is authentic,
right?
And they're being that way because that is truly who they are.
Yeah.
Now, a kind person doesn't have to be nice.
I would say that there's times where being nice isn't kind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I say love doesn't feel like love sometimes.
Yeah, it's fake.
Yeah, I don't want to tell people what they fucking want to hear and stuff like that. Like that's.
I don't want somebody to tell me that they love me.
I don't want bullshit ever.
I say nice is a behavior, kind is a state.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And these aren't right or wrongs. These are all just what we've decided is like there's just being nice and being kind.
Yeah.
You know, tradecraft is about being nice.
Yeah.
You know, if you're on the tradecraft side of things, you're masterful at being nice.
Basically, just a spy.
I'm being nice,
exactly.
so I can ultimately not be very kind.
Well, manipulative. Nice is almost
so that
I'm being nice, so I can be
put
unkind at the time and place of my
Yeah.
choosing.
Put a bullet in your head.
Right. Right.
Allegedly.
Well, this has been great, Clint. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh,
so much.
I feel like I was random. I feel like I was all over the place.
No, we brought
it
you
all
back.
boils down to authenticity.
Get on the fucking map.
Vulnerability.
Get on a map.
Yeah.
Be authentic. Be vulnerable.
Don't be lost.
You know what I mean?
Well, I tell you, don't be lost.
Right.
And even when you're wrong, you might not be wrong. You might just be early.
Yeah.
The way to know the difference is to surround yourself with authentic people.
Right. Exactly.
Authentic people will tell you you're wrong, or
team.
they'll tell you you're early, and they'll always tell you if you're lost. And
Yeah.
the minute you're in that conversation, you're not lost anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Lost is a choice.
Last question, man, for those who are tuning in, watching, listening, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
LinkedIn's the only social media I somewhat understand. I have an Instagram. My daughter's told me, like real Clint Bruce, and I got it. I can't remember the password right now.
That's
okay.
So LinkedIn for sure.
LinkedIn, and then real Clint Bruce on Instagram and the Facebook. But I'm better on LinkedIn than I am the other two. But I'm getting better at Insta because my wife told me to. I fear no man, but virtually all women.
Yeah.
And my wife the most. Yeah. Like she tells me, I grumble about it, but I do.
Yeah. Well,
that was like my ring dance date. I mean, we've been together, June.
It's amazing, man.
She's her dad. There's so many stories. Her dad fell asleep when I was asking if I could marry her.
Oh, dude, I got a story. We'll share after we hit stop on record, man.
But he was a scout for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And we went to lunch the next day, and he's like, I'm not drafting. I'm like, I don't want to play for you. I want to marry your daughter. He's like, you can marry my daughter. I'm like, but I can marry, but he's like, if I'm not gonna draft, I'm like, if you draft me, I wouldn't play for you. But I can marry. He's like, yeah. And then it was the most awkward lunch I've ever had for about an hour. And I called Amy. She's like, how'd I go? I'm like, it was horrible. He said yes, but I've never felt worse about myself as a football player. He pulled out my draft report. He goes, you're the third worst linebacker in the draft. I was like, what? Like, there's a tight end at Stanford that's never played linebacker, and he's better than you. I was like, all right.
How do you know he never fucking played linebacker?
Yeah. I should have said that, but I didn't. I was scared of him.
It's like the number 4.
Her dad looked like a mean Casey Kasem. He's Armenian.
Oh, my God.
He's
American top 40.
He's terrifying. Well, this is great, man. I'm proud of you guys. I'm grateful for the effort. I'm grateful to have been included.
Great to have you here. Great to be in
Austin, good work, man.
Austin's our guy right here.
Austin, Peaceful Productions in, where are we? Plano, Texas.
Plano.
Yeah,
I'm
afraid to say anything now about Texas. Or
Don't be wrong. You'll be rebuked. You won't be assaulted.
Okay, well, okay, good. I'll be forgiven.
Hey, you're wrong. You're not lost. All right. Well, hey, for our audience, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate you being here. Thanks for listening. If you got something out of this, which I know you did. I mean, so many gold nuggets there.
Everywhere.
Share it with your friends, family, whoever else you feel might need this. And thanks for tuning in.
Leave us a review. Thank you, Clint.
Yeah, man.
Everybody.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold fast, stay true. Thanks for listening. Spend some time.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.